Oh, by the way, did we tell you there would be some surprise guests this evening? No, we didn't, did we? Well, the first one is with us right now. He is the writer of the critically acclaimed Pudsey the movie, starring that dog.
Oh, that's low.
Sorry, starring that dog that won Britain's Got Talent, and that definitely isn't Susan Boyle. But you may know him better as Mr. Biffo, the writer and editor of Digitiser, the world's only daily video game magazine of the 1990s. It is Teletext artist and wordsmith, Mr. Paul Rose. Hi.
Now I say hello. Hello. Hi.
And also, I should add, you're a personal hero of mine. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
Very welcome. It's good to be here. Well, it's good to be here. I'm in my house, so there you go. I didn't even have to do anything.
Hi. You've got your TARDIS in the background as well.
Yes, that's my dungeon door. That's what it leads to.
Guys, donate to our Patreon, and you might get to see what's behind that.
You might play your cards right.
Only joking, we don't have a Patreon. To start us off, here's a question from me, and this is directed to Paul. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Now, Paul, we all know that video games journalists were like rock stars in the late 80s and the early 90s.
They were.
But you got into it in a rather unusual way, via programming pixelated graphics for stadium scoreboards. So, how did you go from writing the most popular analog video games magazine of the decade, go from that to, you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yes, the dog. It's not a very interesting story. I'll try and jazz it up with some dancing or something. But I was working at Teletext doing the graphics, and it was just that they'd just taken over, or were about to take over from Oracle, which, if anyone remembers that, was the Teletext service that was on ITV beforehand. And they just put out a request to all the staff to suggest ideas for sections. And I suggested two things. One was a kid's cartoon strip, which turned into Turn of the Worm, and the other one was a video game section. And they didn't have anyone who wanted to write the video game section, so they said I could write it, which I ended up doing with a guy called Tim Moore. And eventually, it sort of took over the day job doing the graphics, because I enjoyed it more, basically. So I put more time into writing about video games than doing silly pixelated pictures.
What were you more trained in, the design side or the writing side?
I mean, I wasn't trained in writing at all. At school, I used to write stupid shows, because at the time when I was growing up, there was a lot of industrial action, and teachers said they weren't going to put on any school productions. So I used to write and put on these kind of sub Monty Python style comedy reviews. But Teletext Graphics, even that, it was self-taught, really. I got a job prior to working at Teletext. I was working at Wembley Stadium, and then prior to that I was working for Ladbrokes Racing, doing the graphics for their Teletext site and their in-store betting screens. And yeah, I just taught myself. It was I mean, they didn't really do kind of courses to learn how to be a teletext artist. And when I worked at Ladbrokes, no one there really knew how the graphics worked. They just sort of sat me down. I was 15 when I started there, and they just sat me down and said, "Come on, get on with it. Do a picture of a horse." So I had to work it out.
Right. So what sort of software did you have? Did you have special machines to write on teletext or design?
God, do you know the last person that asked me that question was my granddad, and he asked me it. God, 20 odd years ago, when just Teletext had just taken over. I remember I was showing Turner and I knew whether we used a special crayon. I forgot about. It was obviously very high tech to him. He'd never seen anything like this. It was like, wow, you know, we're living in the future. But I don't know. I can't remember. There were PCs. I think the software that I used for Teletext towards the end was WinSprite, if anyone knows what that is. WinSprite 2.1, I can't remember. WinSprite, definitely, but the software we used at Ladbrokes, I haven't got a clue what it was. I know it was PC based, but yeah, nothing special. I'm being attacked by one of my cats here. Go away. Evil.
We have a guy called Monkey Spaz who's on our show quite a lot, and he tends to buy a console, keep it for about a week, even current gen stuff like a PS4 and an Xbox One, and then sell it. So John Latimer has asked, A PS4 with Grand Theft Auto 5. Should Monkey Spaz buy one?
I mean, GTA 5, you need to... Well, it's a question... You know, it's about whether he's gonna like GTA 5. Really, it's you know, it's not everyone's cup of tea as great as it is.
Well, I said there is new bits into it. Like you can have point of view sex with prostitutes in the PS4 version now. I think.
Can you?
If that's
Christ, I should install it, but I haven't got 10 hours to spare.
That's.
I love GTA 5 on. PS, I've lost track of what generation we are now. PS3. I really loved the PS3 version. I don't know whether I could be bothered to sit through it again. I lost all my saves for some reason. I got kind of probably about 3/4 of the way through more or less doing everything in the game, and then lost all my saves. And I just can't face it. As much as I'd like to kind of see all the slightly nicer sunsets and there's some more blades of grass and stuff. It's a big commitment of time, and if you've only got a week before you sell it, no point.
That's a good point. Here's a good question again from John Latimer. He asks, have you ever declined a chance of a night out so you could stay in and play a game? If so, what game was so important that you would rather play that than go out and have fun?
I was trying to think. I've probably come close. I mean, this week I've been absolutely caning it on Far Cry 4. The day I got it, was it out Wednesday, I think, this week, I sat and played it. Literally, I just lay on the sofa for about 8 hours, and I haven't done that on a game in living memory. That's the first time I've done that in a very, very long time. And I felt.
Do you have a
really
wife and kids and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, yeah, my girlfriend was very patient. It's understanding, but I think it's a very special game, and actually I can probably get away with that because she really loved watching me play Far Cry 3. Although she hasn't actually watched any of this for some reason, but yeah.
Anything quirky art my wife likes, and she'll sit and watch.
Or like Teletext.
Yeah, I think she liked the. Yeah, there you go. That's quirky.
Bamboozled.
Yeah, no, I think she liked
Bamboozled.
Bless him. Bless Bamba.
So, John, that was a fantastic question. If anybody out there in Streamland wants to answer that, please post your answers and we'll read out the best ones. But I think we've just got a bit of time for another one here, and it's from Novabug. He asks, would people like to see an old system manufacturer re-enter the market, and do you think it could be possible?
This is, I'm guessing well, I'm sure he'd like some kind of Amstrad resurrection based on what he likes, but it's always talked about with Sega, isn't it? And if they'll come back with the Dreamcast. The
Dreamcast 2, yes. Going back to the original question, I think, Chris, you mentioned there about perhaps the Amstrad could come back. I very, very much doubt that, because Alan Sugar these days is more...
I said that I'm sure he'd like the Amstrad to come back.
Yes, oh, so would I. We all would. Everybody would, but unfortunately it's not going to happen. I personally asked Sir Alan Sugar, and he said, naff off.
Well, as long as he doesn't get any of these fools that he gets on The Apprentice. It must be really gutting for him, but he puts all this money on the line to hire these people, and they're all imbeciles.
But that's what they're auditioned to be, the biggest idiots possible. And I think, you know, it's about making the show interesting and watchable and, you know, annoying at the same time, so it becomes engaging rather than actually trying to find proper employees.
Yeah, every series they have a couple of estate agents, someone who works as an IT, somebody who works as a senior buyer for a large firm, and then somebody who's self-employed and is a bit.
Don't forget the lawyer.
A lawyer and a graduate.
So yes, I quite like The Apprentice. The way it's edited is very prime time, shall we say. Paul, you've written for a number of BBC TV shows, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Do you have insider knowledge of this sort of thing, or can you tell us about this?
Well, I've not really worked for kind of reality shows, as far as I know. I mean, yeah, The Apprentice is as scripted almost as any kind of drama or comedy, you know. But it's all done in the edit room. They'll put it together. Then they'll build a story and decide, oh, that person's going to be the idiot. That one's going to be the winner. It's all done after the event, but it's as fake as any TV drama.
So would you say it's possible to spot the winner from the very first show from the way that the edit is?
Possibly. I don't know. It depends how far in advance it's. I don't know how far in advance that they record it, because it's quite possible if they're kind of doing it week by week and then putting it out the following week, that the story as such could change over time.
I've got a question, if I may.
Shoot.
Paul, is it true that you have once worked on Sooty?
Yeah, that was the first thing I ever had on TV. Was Sooty.
How was Sooty?
I actually own a sweep, an original sweep. It's up in my loft, which I stole. I probably shouldn't say that. We used to have in the writing room. We used to have all the Sooty puppets, and they're slightly longer than kind of a regular glove puppet that you would buy from a toy shop, because they've got to kind of hide the puppeteer's arm. But they were just the perfect size to kind of hide bottles of wine in. And we had all these puppets stood up, and inside each one was a bottle of wine. It was good. It was the first thing I ever wrote, and it was a baptism by fire, because it was, the episodes were 12 minutes long. You had an A story, a subplot, and you had a main character who couldn't talk. So it was a bit of a challenge. But
did you write sweeps lines?
You did, yeah. You actually do write sweeps lines. Yeah, I was talking about this with someone the other day, funny enough. They're all written out. Sooty gets a bit repetitive because it's constantly, Sooty taps, knocks, and whispers in whoever's ear, and then that person just has to parrot back what he said. I was
just going to ask. Are sweeps lines subtitled on Teletext if you put 888
I don't know, actually. That's a thought. I don't know if I ever did that. I did, shortly after I worked on Sooty, they got me in on, Channel 4 did one of those 100 greatest shows. They did 100 greatest kids shows. And all the links were presented by, I remember this, Jamie Theakston, with a load of kind of kids' TV puppets, sweep dialogue. But it was all kind of slightly filthy. So I actually got to script Sweep saying "fuck off" in that, and he actually says it. He says it. If you look for it on YouTube, it's on there somewhere.
Oh dear, those childhoods ruined. Oh dear.
What do you do now, Paul? What's your how do you make your living?
I write very unpopular films starring dancing dogs. I still write mostly kids' TV. That's the day job these days. Is writing assorted bits of telly. Pays the bills, keeps me out of trouble.
If you had a chance to write for any show, what would it be?
God, my gut feeling is always to go Doctor Who, but I think I used to be a really big EastEnders fan, if you can believe there is such a thing as a really big EastEnders fan. And I worked on EastEnders, and I wrote one episode, and it was such a horrible experience that I literally haven't watched it since, and that was kind of getting on for 10 years ago now. And I wouldn't want that to happen to a show that I love, like Doctor Who, again. So, I don't know. I really don't know. I like all those old kind of heritage shows. Lots of kids shows like Emu and like Noddy and things that I watched growing up. It sounds like really weird. I would love to have written an episode of Grange Hill. I really loved Grange Hill as a kid.
I live in a building I work in a building, sorry. I live there, might as well, the amount of time I spend there. That looks very similar to Grange Hill.
But which one? Because they changed the school several times. And then towards the end, the school mysteriously moved to Liverpool.
What was his name? Tucker's Grange Hill. One of the first.
Back in the day, that was. I know what school that was actually. It was in Wembley. It was a school called Preston Manor, I think, if I'm right. I don't know how I know that.
It must have been nearest to where you worked then, because you worked at Wembley Stadium doing the scoreboard graphics. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. Back in the day, before I worked at Teletext. Yes, that was a cushy job, to say the least. Not the most demanding of jobs that I've ever had.
So presumably you didn't come into this wanting to write Sooty and Sweep, although it's an admirable want. What what is like? Is there a point or a thing that you would like to do most of all? In your future?
I mean, at the moment, I'm kind of falling back in love again with writing about games because I haven't done it in a very long time, and I've forgotten how much I enjoyed it. You know, I work on a lot of TV shows for other people, and you know, I love my job most days, but I don't get to say what I want to say always. You know, there's always a degree of compromise and creative kind of collaboration with it. And back when I did Digitiser and my Edge column and stuff like that, it was, you know, I was able to kind of just say what I wanted to say. So about games, which I love games, and I love kind of saying what's on my mind. So they went together well. So yeah, I kind of at the minute, I don't know, I'm rediscovering a bit of a love for that. So yeah.
Did you write a blog?
I'd like to write a Star Wars film. That'd be cool. Yeah, just in the last week. There you go. I can plug my blog. Because I've sort of been kind of semi-retired as Mr. Biffo for about 7 years really now, and literally in the last kind of 10 days, I kind of just popped up. There was a tipping point. I don't know if I can say what it was that made me decide to come back. But I wrote something just for fun that was based upon an actual games journalist. And I really loved writing it, and I thought, God, I've missed this too much. So just on a whim, I think I stuck it up online and kind of came out of hiding away on Twitter and just started posting stupid jokes. And so far, it seems to have gone down quite well. People seem to have actually missed me, which I wasn't expecting. I thought I'd kind of turn up and be a bit like Adam West post Batman, where people are kind of saying, "Who's that guy? You know, what's he doing here?" But no, it seems to have gone down well. Yeah.
So I think that's one of the beauties of like the internet, I suppose, and YouTube and things, is that if you do want to say something, you can pretty much put your own thoughts and feelings into doing a blog or doing a video on a YouTube channel. You can say what you want, and I think that's where the most successful YouTubers and whatnot, because they are saying what they want to say and saying it in an entertaining way, and you've not got the confines of, say, like some magazines, or if you're doing it for a TV show, and you could just do what you wish.
Yeah, I think more and more people are kind of doing it. It's, you know, even people like Ricky Gervais, whether or not you like him, he put his David Brent videos online because even he probably has a degree of kind of interference from executive producers and the like, and it just allows people to do the work they really want to do and are passionate about. You know, I'm not there yet. You know, it's early days. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm feeling my way a bit. We'd possibly like to do some sort of Kickstarter thing to do with Digitiser at some point, but it depends whether there's an audience out there. But we'll see.
You've also got a Twitter, haven't you, Paul?
Yes, at Mr. Biffo, if anyone wants to follow me. But yeah, the Twitter feed is mostly just really stupid jokes. I lost 2 followers this morning because I did a run of jokes about Norway, which obviously seemed to upset people.
Dear.
Maybe they were Norwegian, I don't know. So if you're Norwegian, watch out.
Yes, go and visit digitiser2000.com for the rebooted Digi. For a limited time only, maybe.
We shall see.
Yes. And also, we have a new entrant to the call, I believe.
Hello.
We were just talking about shit games journalists, Larry.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Larry Bundy Jr. Hi.
Hello.
Hello, Larry.
Hello there. How's it going? I'm not really a journalist. I just pretend to be one, and hope nobody's noticed so far.
I got away with it for 10 years, so...
Okay, so, welcome to the stream, Larry. You're just in time for the next question from the Retro Roundtable. This one is from Mr. Aidan Watkins, and he asks, or he says, 100 reasons why Sega is better than Nintendo, and is a simple fact. Discuss, I guess.
100 reasons? We have to come up with 100 reasons?
Yeah, I guess so. 1 to 100, Dreamcast 2.
Strider.
4 Sonic games versus 2 Mario games on the 16-bit.
But were those Sonic games all better than the Mario games?
Well,
Nope.
it's a point of objectivity, isn't it?
Which one's Sonic 3D? Which one's the one that everybody hates?
Oh yeah, that was the one they brought.
It's just called Sonic the Hedgehog, isn't it? But people refer to it as Sonic 2006.
That's it. That's the one. Sonic.
What was the isometric arcade one with the trackball? Was that Sonic 3D? There was an actual Sonic arcade game which was virtually impossible to play.
Wasn't it? It was just called Sonic the Hedgehog Arcade, I think, something like that.
It was hideous.
Yeah.
Paul, would you consider yourself a retro gamer?
Yes.
Do you play any of the older games? And what's your favourite console?
Well, probably the one in terms of kind of old machine. So I was a Spectrum boy, and I do still play from time to time. Making noises. I still play School Days, and I don't play them for very long because I do find most kind of old games, certainly the Spectrum era, virtually unplayable, unfortunately. But I like watching. It's a pretty sad admission, but I like watching old Spectrum games on YouTube. I just like the sounds, the nostalgia of it.
You should definitely watch Monkey Spaz then.
Okay, I shall make a note of that.
Paul, have you ever watched Collie UK's videos?
No.
I hereby recommend him to you. Collie UK. All he does is pretty much old Spectrum games.
I will take a look.
What was it about the Specky that you enjoyed, Paul?
It was just the first. Well, I think I had a VCS before then, but it was the first console I ever got, or first computer that I ever got, and it just it had the 3 games I got the day I got it, Christmas Day, Horace and the Spiders, 3D Haunted Hedges. I don't know if anyone remembers that.
I know Haunted Hedges for the Amstrad CPC, but I think it's a different game.
Right. It was basically Pac-Man, but it was called 3D Haunted Hedges. It wasn't. It was kind of sort of slightly isometric.
I think it's the same game. I think it is.
Yeah. It was a guy. It was a stick man wandering around a hedge maze, but. It just got me at the right time. It's not that I think it was necessarily a better console than kind of the C64 or better computer than any of those. It just got me at that right impressionable age. In terms of what my favourite machine of all time is, probably the SNES. And I think I don't know. I don't like the Wii U. It's weird. I've just put I can see it's stuffed in at the bottom of a shelving unit to my left. I don't like that horrible big controller. It's just unwieldy. But there's some good games on it.
One of the Pro controllers that you can get. I think I've got one.
Yeah, I have got one of those.
I tend to find that once I use these things, that they are it is much better. Definitely, I thoroughly recommend it to anybody who has one. Because I'm like you, I hate that fucking pad. I think it's an absolute. It's good if your missus watching telly and you've only got one telly in the house. That would be the only reason I would see to use it. But otherwise, it's pointless. Nintendo, people want to sit and play Nintendo games for hours and hours and hours. And if you're going to have this crappy pad with it, you should be able to last up to that.
Yeah. I think as well, they've shot themselves in the foot with it, really. The thing with the Wii is that people got it. It was easy. You just kind of waved your hands around. And they brought this thing out. And I know the Wii appears to be doing okay for itself at the moment, but there's just a sense it hasn't got the same sort of traction as Sony and Microsoft these days. And I think people just got confused by the Wii U controller. It's like, what is that? What do I do with it? In the way that the Wii just kind of so hit spot on that casual gamer kind of market.
Naming is pretty silly as well, similar to the 3DS where you've got the new 3DS, Wii U. I've had people say to me, oh yeah, if you look at a Wii combo, oh yeah, it's that new one, the Wii. No, it's not. It's not Wii. It's Wii. And they're really. People don't know what to buy for and all the rest of it. It's very silly.
So the thing with when the Wii came out, it was something that has never really happened. I don't think it'll ever happen again. Was that you used to go past pubs and they'd have like a Wii set up in the pub to play.
Yeah.
They used to have it at old people's homes to play the bowling or whatever. It was everywhere.
They've suggested at work that I bring in my Wii so that we can have a team event, and play Wii bowling against each other.
It made gaming kind of social in a way that I don't think any other console has. I mean, social in the way of people in the same room rather than online. It was the console that my mum could play, and we did at Christmas. You'd get the Wii out, but you can't do that with the Wii U. Partly as well, you can't buy another controller that cheaply because it's got a bloody television built into it. So I think, I don't know. I just don't like it, and that's a shame because I really kind of love Nintendo's games, but I don't want to play on it, even with the Pro Pad, which I've got. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I can't play it with the big screen thingy either, so I don't.
What about the Wii Virtual Console? Is that available for the Wii U?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
It hasn't got all the games that they had on the Wii, has it? It's kind of they're slowly still updating it. I think I may be wrong about that, and that's daft as well. Just chuck everything on there, that was already available. I had tons of games from that virtual console. Dozens.
They're just sort of turning a corner now, and they're just starting to make profit again. In their recent reports, Nintendo, they're sort of coming out of their foggy haze now, and they made a loss last year, and I think that this quarter of this year now, they've made a good bang-on profit.
Okay, then I think we should go to the comments for the first time tonight. Hi, everybody out there watching. Here we go. We have a question for Paul. Who set the questions for Bamboozle?
I know exactly who it was. It was a guy called Julian Edwards who used to sit opposite me, and I think I actually did it at least once because we all used to sort of double up. I even wrote the horoscopes one time on Teletext, which they got him Patrick Walker, I think, to do the horoscopes eventually. I don't even know if he's still alive anymore, Patrick Walker, but he was quite a big kind of astrologer at the time. But it was a guy called Julian Edwards who I'd known from when I worked at Ladbrokes, and I got him a job there, and he ended up being the competitions coordinator, and he was Bamboozler, effectively. I drew the picture, I designed what Bamba looked like, but Julian did all the questions and kind of came up with the idea for Bam having an extended family. I think he had Bambette, and then there was Buster, I think it was, I can't quite remember, but yeah, Julian Edwards, who used to get annoyed with me and my friend Tim, who used to write Digitiser with me, because we used to make noise and mess about and throw food across the office. And Julian was quite a straight-laced, lovely guy, but not someone who kind of appreciated people throwing plates of food kind of at a wall. So there you go.
Can I ask, did you use your video games journalism as an excuse to play games at work?
Yeah. I remember actually it might have been Championship Manager, which I mentioned earlier. I remember we were playing that at work one day, or a game like that, and we'd changed all the players' names to kind of stupid things. I remember one of the players was called Stink Penis, and they had various kind of ridiculous names. I can't remember. They're all filthy. And I remember we were playing it, and the features editor had been standing watching us for some time with these players called things like Stink Penis, kind of passes the ball to kind of Big Cock and things. And she was standing there behind us waiting to give us a bollocking over something and summon us to her office, and I don't think we exactly convinced we were not deserving of that bollocking.
But those were the default names in the game. You should have said.
Well, no, it would have been good if they were, but no. We did. I remember many afternoons playing Micro Machines on the Mega Drive in the office. We didn't do it very often, to be honest, because there wasn't really anywhere to kind of play them. But we did, Micro Machines and I think it was Championship Manager were the two that I do remember well playing. And Doom, try to play Doom on the crappy PCs that we used to do teletext graphics on. And I used to bunk off as well. I used to bunk off kind of one day a month, or one day a week, was it? I can't remember. To go and do arcade reviews. They gave me £20 a month to go and review arcade games, which was a bit of a joke, really. I don't
20
quite know how I
quid?
got away with that for as long as I did. Yeah, it was quite a lot of money back in those. Bear in mind, this is kind of getting over 20 years ago now. Yeah, games or arcade games were still only about 20 ago then.
I was just going to say, 20 quid, that wouldn't get you very far in a
Back
modern
then?
games arcade.
No, it's about two
Did you
goes.
20 games?
For £1 each.
A seaside arcade, you probably get even more than 20 games.
Yeah, well actually, having said that, I was in Scarborough earlier this year, and I lasted 45 minutes on £1 credit on a Silent Hill or a Resident Evil game, I'm not sure what it was, one of those light gun games, and the receiver, or whatever you call it, the gun thing, was all sticky because somebody had eaten a full ice cream and then tried to play the thing, but it was a good experience. Apart from that, of course.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I wish there was more places. I wish there was, like, in the States now, barcades are quite popular.
Yeah.
You know, you can have a beer and a game of Street Fighter.
Well, so there's one, isn't there, called Frankenbusters or something, or what's the name of the place?
Frankie and Benny's.
No, it's not Frankie, but I'm probably getting confused with Frankie and Benny's. But yeah, there's a whole chain, which is it's basically kind of a harvester with a massive arcade attached, and as a chain of them. I was going to say some new Star Wars arcade game coming out. I think I saw something about recently that looked with a big flash cabinet. Maybe I imagine
that'll be a tie-in to episode 7, will it? I do like. I only get to do it once a year, but I do like to play the original Star Wars cab at play. That's always an absolute treat.
Yes, classic.
Right, I think we should go back to the comments. Where were we? Kit171 says, Sega has said it themselves multiple times over the years. They're not coming back to hardware outside of what they do for arcades in Japan, because they can't afford it. And just like being a publisher/developer, they make more money that way, as they've also said. Besides, there really isn't room for a fourth home console. This keeps getting brought up, though. Well, obviously, people are clamoring for it, so...
Obviously, there is a need.
Yeah.
I don't know how any company now that just does consoles. I mean, like, Nintendo has turned a corner, but I think when you're up against Sony and Microsoft, even if Sony does have problems, they're just a huge kind of entertainment mega corporation, both of them. You know, they've got fingers in so many pies. You're just not going to compete on that level. I think any new Sega console or anything like that it would have to be a hobbyist thing. And then you've got the issue that who's going to make games for a machine that's got a niche audience. I don't know.
I guess what you mean, with Nintendo already cater to that to a sense, and they have the license to Sonic anyway. So.
Well, you could survive on first-party titles, as Nintendo have been doing recently, I'd say.
No, they've got a couple. I think Ubisoft do games for them, and then the guys who do Bayonetta do games for them as well.
Oh yeah, good point.
I think that it would be better if they all had more first-party exclusives, because they're incredibly similar right now.
Yeah.
So, it's bar. I've only got 2. I've got Dead Rising 3 and Sunset Overdrive, and bar those 2 games, there really is nothing.
Sunset Overdrive. Paul, do you have something to say on that?
Yes. I totally agree though on the exclusives thing. And yeah, part of the reason why I got Sunset Overdrive was to justify the fact that I bought an Xbox One. But yes, I wasn't blown away by it, to say the least.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
It was alright. It's fine, but it's kind of it's not smooth in the way that I kind of wanted it to be.
I felt like I was getting a very cheap version of Jet Set Radio Future.
Absolutely, yeah. It just hasn't got that same kind of flow that Jet Set Radio had, and that was years ago.
And I think when you're trying to mash up, I think actually Larry's review was spot on. He said they were trying to mash up a Crackdown kind of over the top third-person game and Jet Set Radio Future, and because they were so different, it just didn't work, and they didn't have the flow, and you couldn't do these. I don't know about you, but I always found that at some point I was going to fall off, and that really fucked me off because I just wanted to keep on going round and round the city. But at some point, I knew I was going to have to
same.
to the floor, and then I was going to have to. And instinctively, in that game, you want to climb back up the buildings, and so it gets on your wick after a while, and you just stop playing.
Yeah, and is any second that you're on the floor for? It's just horrible. The combat when you're not on a rail or hanging from something, it's just horrible. It's no, but you know, I don't hate it. It's just kind of it's all right. I like the fact that it's trying to be something different, but I think it thinks it's more different than it actually is. It's yeah.
It was hyped up to the point of ridiculousness because it really didn't deliver what it promised.
No, absolutely not.
We have a question for Paul here, and this is from JL76 Gaming. He asks, I don't know if you want to answer this, Paul. Was the woman who voiced Sue from the Sooty Show sexy? Because he used to think she had a sexy voice. That's so wrong, isn't it? You don't have to answer it.
I don't know how much I can say about that. Okay, we always used to write Sue as a kind of middle-aged woman on the verge of a nervous breakdown. And I'll just leave it at that.
Right, that's probably best. I don't know why I even asked that question.
I'm not going to elaborate. Gents, I'm going to call it a night, if that's okay, on that bombshell.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight, Paul.
I've enjoyed doing it. Maybe do it again sometime.
Yes, we'd love to have you on again. One last plug for your blog?
www.digitiser2000.com.
Yes, and follow him and follow Paul on Twitter at Mr. Biffo. There you go.
Fab. Brilliant.
Excellent.
All right, cheers, gents. Have a good night.
Thank you.
See
ya. Good night.
See you, Paul.
Good night, Mr. Teletext.
See ya.
Oh, fantastic. I just had a nerdgasm.
He was a really cool guy.
Oh, I didn't expect anything else.